Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being on. Happy Tuesday. Oh, we still got several jumping in. Trent, haven't seen you in forever. Thank you guys for being on. Really excited about today to be able to have Peter Chabris. Peter, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having.
I'll make sure, and we'll have, for those of you that maybe don't know Peter, we'll start with just a little bit of your background. And the reason I wanted to explain, the reason why I really wanted to have Peter on to do this today, one, Peter taught not a full leverage series, but was it just to
Full
see?
leverage series.
Oh, was it the full? Okay.
Yeah.
The full leverage series in Columbus, Ohio last year. And the feedback was incredible. The agents, the rainmakers, the leadership team that we had there just had such great things to say about it. So it was really great. And I shared this with Peter right before we hopped on. I feel like, and I've been guilty of this too, a lot of times where we go wrong in hiring is we follow the CV process, we make the hire, and then we screw up the 30, 60, 90, or the first 90 days. And by screw up, I mean even don't even do it sometimes. Sometimes we start and we're really strong for 30 days, and then it's like the 60 and 90 go out the window. And I just remember, Peter, I have saved on my computer a copy of a 30, 60, 90 of yours from like 2017, I think.
Yeah.
And it was just like meticulously gone through, and I've used that so many times. So I thought it would be great and very thankful for you to come on and share, and we'll kind of walk through. And as you guys have questions, just put them in the chat and we'll field. But first, Peter, for somebody who may not know you, will you just give them a little bit of background?
Yeah. So my name is Peter Chabris. I'm in Cincinnati. I wear a couple different hats in the real estate world. My first one is the CEO of the Chabris Group. Let's see, we're number one or number two in the region every year. We've been two for 3 years in a row, which I'm not super psyched about. Let's see, what else? Last year we closed 394 transactions. I don't know why we couldn't have found six more. That was about 115 million in volume. I've been out of production since 2017, so this is year 7 for me.
Truly seventh level.
I'm not truly 7th level. I'm truly 6th level.
Okay.
7th level is when somebody runs the company day to day.
Okay.
I'm probably flipping that switch in about 6 months. You know, James, he's moved
Nice.
from director of sales to executive director, and so he really kind of runs it now. But I'm still here in the office most days, so I kind of undermine his authority a little bit. So
Nice.
probably in the next 6 months, I'll work from home 80-90% of the time. Anyway, so I launched Keller Williams Seven Hills Realty as the launching OP. After maybe 2.5 years, 3 years of that, I decided I didn't love that role. And so Tara Smith, who was one of my investors, I sold her some shares and she became the OP, and she's much better at it than I am. So that was in 2020. She took the reins on January 1st, 2020, 2.5 months before COVID started. So
Wow.
that was trial by fire for her. What else? I'm taking too long to talk about who I am. Keller Williams University Master Faculty. It's one of the designations I'm most proud of. I'm also one of their certified leverage instructors. What am I forgetting? I also do some coaching, sales team coaching. So those are kind of the hats I wear. And then I also, Dana, about a year and a half ago, started a kind of a give back brand called Lockbox. Which is a weekly video email that I send out to anyone that's interested with just real estate mindset, finance, systems, tips, tricks, hacks, scripts, with a corresponding blog. I like thinking of them as Realtor McNuggets. They're like 2 to 3 minutes long, easily digestible, and then you can move on with your day. And if there's something there, great, take it. And if not, just delete it and wait for the next week. So,
I
and that's
didn't know about that, Peter, and I'm like very excited about that. So can I go ahead and share that in the chat for people?
Yeah, people probably don't want to register until I say something smart, but if you want to share it now, that's great.
You're going to want to register for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Yeah, awesome. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
thank you.
And you have a beautiful wife and 2 kiddos.
Yeah, my wife is freaking awesome. My kids are good. I like her more than my kids. But my kids, let's see, my daughter is 19. She's a sophomore at Boston University studying double major finance and accounting.
Wow.
Which I'm psyched about. And my son is like, he's 17. He's just starting to exit the doofus mode of teenage boys. Like sometimes he can think beyond his face, occasionally. So like we're optimistic he's going to be a fully formed human at some point. So that's me in a nutshell.
Adam and I just had that conversation about Addison because he's just starting to drive now, which is like the weirdest thing ever. He got his license
Gary.
3 weeks
Yep.
ago.
Yep.
And it was like a light switched all of a sudden. But I'm like, I still feel like his brain isn't all the way there yet. He's driving, which is like the weirdest thing. Troy, you're next on that. Just wait. It is the weirdest thing ever. So he's away at a tennis tournament. I'll tell you this really quick. And they went with the tournament team, and the coach called the first day and said, "Hey, just want to tell you about Addison." And Adam's like, "What's up?" And he's like, all the boys were like crossed their legs in the van. Everybody had to go to the bathroom so bad. We jumped out of the van. We stopped at a gas station. We jumped out of the van. We sent Addison in. We felt like he was the most responsible. They said there's a key to the bathroom. Addison got the key, went in, used the restroom, sat the key down, washed his hands, walked out, locked the key in the bathroom. His coach was like, every boy was like, "Addison, dude, you're so, what's wrong with you?" So all the kids had to use the bathroom outside behind the gas station. Adam was like, "Oh my gosh." And he's driving, which is even scarier.
It's scary. So something that always helps me for anyone who's got a teenage boy or is coming up on that time, research has proven that during puberty, boys develop more muscle, right? They undergo more physical expansion, and so there's less energy, and so their neocortex actually develops significantly slower than women, which
Wow.
is why teenage girls listen more, do their homework, can carry a conversation, can think about other people, and the boys are just such doofuses. So like teenage boy parents out there, hang tough, just give it a couple years, they come out of it.
You didn't know you were gonna get family advice today too.
Yeah,
Um,
so I'm not qualified to give any of that advice, by the way. So
okay, Peter. So let's
yeah,
see. How do you want to start? Do you want to kick off with just kind of explaining the 30, 60, 90 to
yeah.
everyone and how you use it, and we can kind of build from there?
Yeah. So one of the main reasons there's two reasons I decided to be a leverage instructor. One is the more you teach it, the better you get at it. And the second one is I felt like in the Killer Williams universe, too much attention is put on the leverage on the first step, career visioning, what used to be called recruit select. And not enough attention is put on the 30, 60, 90. And in my hiring journey, what I have learned is that I'm speaking for myself. Hopefully, some other agents can relate to this. We all invest so much into the KPA and the process and the reference checks and the life story and the all the steps, and they're all great. We're so invested in that, and so many people just teach that class and not the full series that we kind of like our heads check out at that point. We go, okay, I did it. I've got my hire, and I'm just going to like quickly do this thing. I'll check the boxes on the 30, 60, 90, but really I'm exhausted by this process and I'm feeling the pain. I just want this person to do the work. And the problem with that is twofold. One is people are people. We're not machines. You can do all the steps right, get all the right answers, and there's still about a 50-50 chance you didn't get it right? Because I'm human, the person that I'm engaging with, the people I'm engaging with are human, and humans are messy. We're just messy bags of chemicals, and that's the way it goes. So you can't just give up on the career visioning. In fact, I'll say it. I know I'm being recorded. But I think too much attention is put on the first step, which is career visioning. Too much energy is put on that. And what happens is we tap out and then we don't put any energy or enough energy on the 30, 60, 90. And frankly, the only things I care about, let me rephrase that. The thing that's most important about career visioning is the reference checks. Well, I'm not going to say that. The reference checks are sacrosanct. And then the next thing that's sacrosanct is the full 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
Because if you mess up a little bit with career visioning, it's okay as long as you have a like the buck stops here 30, 60, 90. That is the hiring game is actually the 30, 60, 90. Because we can't tell. Now you can tell more with employees. I'm really speaking more for hiring sales talent. Who's on this Zoom? Am I talking about hiring sales talent or am I talking about employees?
Will you type in the chat if you're looking to hire, what's your next hire is going to be?
Yeah, that would be helpful because I
an
want to.
employee or a salesperson, meaning an agent. I would say mostly sales talent, but we have some leadership on too.
So Trent's the only person hiring right now. Both
Both,
and
yeah.
Detroit.
Yeah, both is probably true. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So here's the deal, guys. And again, I'm off piste. I would never say this at a formal Keller Williams event. Yeah, I would. I think when it comes to employees, you put more weight on the career visioning. When it comes to sales, you put more weight on the 30, 60, 90. Because with employees, there is an implicit task for dollars relationship. With salespeople, they're independent contractors, they're salespeople, there's no salary, there's a special place in heaven for realtors, and just like it's hard to be a realtor. And KPA doesn't pick up motivation, and there's just you don't know. And somebody can be a super awesome salesperson and flame out 30 days into the job, and so you just that 30, 60 night, that's all I'm going to say is I'm going to be more generous in who I hire on the sales side because you never know how someone's going to show up in a sales role until they show up. And so I'm always going to, as long as they're a cultural match, I will almost always give somebody the benefit of the doubt when it comes to sales because I know that I've got this like bulletproof 30, 60, 90 that we rarely flex on.
Yep.
That way, because I can't tell you, Danny, how many people when I was doing the full-blown recruit select later career visioning with salespeople, one, I would lose some people, especially in this market, doing all the steps. Two, I was so selective on who I would let into my world that growth was anemic.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was like, I would write off people who didn't have a certain behavioral profile or who didn't have like super awesome experience where they had been the top sales rep at the Verizon store, or had paid their way through college or were varsity sports players in college. Like I didn't hire a lot of the people that didn't check that box, and they went on to be top producers in my market center or other brokerages, which just goes to show you don't know a salespeople. I mean, I have a pretty good gut after 15 years, but you still don't ever know. And so I'm always willing to flex on the career visioning side as long as I'm willing to be rigid or highly inflexible on the 30, 60, 90.
Yeah.
So long-winded
Okay.
answer.
Couple things you said there. One, I completely agree. I think, and I love the CV process. I mean, I think it is extremely amazing. Also,
Yeah,
I
for
sometimes say
sure.
like, yet I do agree. I think a lot of the reason that the 30, 60, 90 is a struggle for people is because by the time you get through the entire CV process,
You're burnt.
you're like, you're burnt. Yeah, you're
Burnt.
done. And so I think that the energy, you like lost the energy and the momentum to really go through with the 30, 60, 90. And then I also love that you said the difference between employees and salespeople. The employees more weight on the CV, the salespeople more weight on the 30, 60, 90. So if you would be willing to, we've done a lot of CV stuff, so I wanted to focus on the 30, 60, 90. If you
For
would be
sure.
willing, will you kind of share one or talk a little bit about exactly what you, and it can be for salesperson, whatever's easier for you, Peter.
Yeah, no, I'll show you guys. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we got it.
All right. So this is we have three different tiers of realtors that we hire with, doesn't matter. This is tier one and tier two. Tier one is the entry level realtor hire. And you can see we've got 6 agents here that we recently hired. Couple things. One is on the 30, 60, 90, historically, actually, yeah, that's fine. Historically, let me just do this. Historically, what we used to do at Keller Williams on 30, 60, 90 is we would pile as much shit as possible and cram as much as we could into 90 days. And like half
True.
of it was in the first 30 days.
Yep.
And what would happen is, and I'm talking specifically about sales talent here, what happens is the sales talent wants to achieve, and so they do all of the like administrative stuff to feel like they're making progress. But what really is happening is you're giving them a reason to not do the sales stuff. The actually 20% of the job that moves them 80% of the way in their new role. And so from day one, they're doing all this dumb make work. It's not dumb, it's important. They're doing all this make work, feeling like they're winning at the company, but what the company is really doing is losing because they're setting expectations that you don't have to perform doing the tasks that matter in a sales role.
Yeah.
So with that disclaimer, with that preamble, here is tier one. We actually, Dana, and this is just for salespeople, we actually have 2 weeks of pre-work before they show up at the job. So week 1 and week 2, can I scroll here? Yeah, week 1 and week 2. So here's week 1, scrolling down to week 2. Here are all of the like administrative things they need to do, and the majority of the scripts that they need to test out of as real estate agents. They do that before they show up on day 1. The reason that we do that is so that on day 1, we can have them do what?
Get into action.
Get into action. That's exactly right. So we want to set and we also don't want to like waste time showing them like, here's how you log on to Follow Up Boss, and here's how you update a contact. Like when you do that at scale, it's exhausting. If you're a smaller company, you can do that one-on-one. It's great relationship building, but at scale and to simplify things, we found that this is valuable. So in our 30, 60, 90, you can see all these things are linked, and this might be overkill, but we created an intranet for our company. I guess I can show that. It just looks like this.
That's cool.
So you can see we have like the different checklists that agents need to use, the different software platforms, training on that, training on contracts, how to get listings certified, which is a flow, different videos that they need to do, resources that they can use so that there's less demand put on our leadership. The agents can use this. So you can see we have this 30, 60, 90 as one of them. So let me move this bar here. So anyway, so if I don't know what the internet lead dialogue is, then I can just click on it and I can watch James, who's our company's executive director, talk about the internet lead dialogue and walk people through the script, model how to do it. And elsewhere on the training on the intranet, people can watch James and I role model this internet lead script. So the agent during their first 2 weeks can watch James talk about it, why it's structured the way it is, watch people role model it, and then practice it before they show up on day 1. And they should test out of this before they begin. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes total sense. So quick question on that. If you go back to the 30, 60, 90, is Kelly checking all those off on her own, or is someone holding
Great
Kelly?
question. Yeah. So our director of sales, how does this work? Kelly, Ryan, they all do their own stuff during the first 2 weeks. That's like self-reported. But then when we get to week 3, which is actually day 1 of the 30, 60, 90, now it's Melissa, our director of growth, who does this stuff. And you can see they have a deadline set for when all this stuff is due.
Yep. Love that.
Now when we get to the actual 30, 60, 90, remember I was saying like we used to cram like 90 different tasks into the first 30 days. This is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 activities that they need to do during the first 30 days. They've got the administrative stuff. They've tested out of their scripts. They'll do other things, but these are the things that we care about in the first week. Here's what they need to do in the second week.
Yep.
In the third week. Now you can see everybody is doing this. Kelly had some family stuff happen during her 30, 60, 90, so you can see it's not complete. But everybody else was doing all these things. And by the end of 30 days, you can see that they're very task-oriented. And this is a piece that I really want to hit on. And this is one of the things I hit on when I teach 30, 60, 90, is that your 30, 60, 90 is not stuff like read the mission statement.
Right.
That's not the 30, 60, 90. It's important, but that's not going to make them successful enough. You should have hired to the mission statement of the culture. Everything here, Dana, is did you do it or not? Did you have 5 conversations in FUB this week? Have you contacted 50% of your sphere? Prove to me you memorized the 5 things dialogue and the multiple officers dialogue. Have you aggregated 10 leads in FUB? Did you test out the buyer consultation dialogue, and have you hosted one open house? The
You either
answer is
did or
either
you
yes
didn't.
or it's
Yeah.
not, or it's no. And if the answer is no, awesome. Best of luck. We're not the right fit. High five. You're awesome. We're just not a fit for each other.
Yep.
And what you'll see is everybody does the stuff. Now, by the end of 30 days, they have kept their first 2 appointments, at least 2 appointments where they're meeting with new clients about using them to sign a buyer agreement or a listing agreement. They've contacted all of their sphere, and they've built themselves a little bit of a pipeline.
Yeah.
So by the end of 30 days, they're absolutely in production. They're not producing yet, but they are doing the things that producers do. 60 days, you can see it's really, what is 60 days? So if I'm going too slow, stop me. So well, actually just memorize these, test out these scripts. 1, 2, 3, 4 scripts, 15 conversations per week. That's 5, 30 leads in your pipeline, 6, host to open has a 7, 3 appointments met, 8, and 1 pended sale, 1 new sale, 9. So there's only 9 things you have to do during your second 30 days of the company. But what can you see has happened already in our 30, 60, 90 of the people that participated? What's happened?
Well, some of them did and some of them didn't, but
Yeah, 3 of them are out, dude.
yeah.
Because it's a very simple binary. You did it or you didn't. Now, everybody likes to talk tough on Zooms when they're on stage in front of people. There are always exceptions to every rule. But if somebody can't do this stuff when they're on their best behavior, right? When they've just been hired and they're on their best behavior and their intentions are the best and their action is the best, if they're not going to do it now, and we have very low standards, we used to have incredibly high ones, we've lowered them significantly. If you're not going to do it now, you're never going to do it. It's just the truth. So let's both say, hey, can we agree if this isn't a match, it's not a match? And somebody else out.
One thing on that, just really fast though, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like if they do the do, as John Maxwell would say, they would have 1 pended sale by the end of the 60 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And a second one at the end of 90 days.
Yep. Love that.
Which, by the way, is achievable. We used to have it be 3, but the market contracted and we've loosened our standards. And so now we just do 2. And I wrestle with that. But you can see we hired 6 agents.
Yep.
2 of them made it.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, one of the agents that I thought was going to be really good didn't make it through 30 days, which just goes to prove after I've been doing this, after I've been hiring salespeople, I've been doing real estate for 21 years. I've been hiring real estate people for 15 years. I still thought I spotted a winner. I shouldn't say a winner. I thought I saw someone's going to perform in our environment that didn't. So again, this is why I don't put as much pressure for producers on the CV process, because you never know.
Yeah.
And I would hate to go through like a 9-month-long CV process to hire this one super special person only to find out in 30 days it's the wrong person.
Yeah.
I'd rather take a risk on the person and put pressure on the 30, 60, 90 process and save time.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how they all started off with check marks and now we're down to 2.
Well, all this stuff up here is administrative. Did you watch the video or didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I should also, can I share one other thing here, Dana?
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. Yes.
Before they start, when they're doing their paperwork, before they start their 30, 60, 90, when we hire them, we show them this document. And it's just company standards and expectations. Couple of expectations, and then we quickly move to standards, some minimum fees that we charge. But what really matters is this section right here. Heads up, salesperson, you got to close the house every month. You got to book 4 appointments, sign 2 clients, pen 1 new sale a month. If you're using company leads, there are a couple other standards. There's not a million of them. We have 3, 3 production standards. And then we outline them here, just some participation standards. And that's it. And they sign this document before they start. And the reason why I want to share this is I coach some clients. I coach some of the sales teams, the rainmakers, have all these standards and all these things they have to do. And it's all too much. And the agent, anybody is going to feel like this is overwhelmed. There's too many things going on. What do I focus on? What's important? Well, if everything is important, nothing is important. And that's why I think
Yep.
One of the most important things is just to condense as much as possible what really matters about whether or not you keep somebody in a role and limit their first 90 days to just that. That way, if they can't do that, it's a very easy decision. I moved all the other distractions out of their way, gave them their core 20%. They didn't perform on this. I love them as people, but I don't love them as business partners. So this is just not a fit. And let's
Yeah.
just cut bait and go on and try the process again. And
I
that's
think
why I like hiring salespeople in groups, is you can do this process with 3 or 4 of them. They support each other. They feel a little competition. And you're also not like taking 6 to 9 months to figure out if an agent is the right person or not. And
Do you guys try to time that to where you do bring on a group at a time?
we did. Yeah. We used to do
Right.
one group a month for a while. But that was still a big drain on our leaders, and which is why we moved to this intranet with a lot of self-study stuff.
Yeah, that's a great idea though. I love the group because then you get a little competition in there too. A little
And
friendly
support.
competition and support. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They're in
Yeah.
it together. It's like a
I
pledge class at a fraternity.
Yeah, I also think it's great, the expectations and standards, and I would be curious to see how many of our rainmakers or people leading teams are actually doing that, because I think that's one of the reasons that after the 90 days or during the 90 days, if they're not having success, they're not having the conversation of, hey, we're probably not the right fit, because they lacked setting the expectation and the standard on the front end. And
Yeah.
that makes it so much easier because they've read it, they've signed it, they knew what it was going into it.
Yeah, I think Dana, you're absolutely right. To me, this business is so easy with clients, and nothing's easy. It's so simple
Yeah.
if you just set the right expectations at the beginning of any relationship.
Yeah.
And we're all so anxious to move quickly that we don't hit the pause button and just have a real like, hey, let me tell you what this means to me. I want to make sure we're on the same page here. By the way, a great script is, Dana, I'm super excited. We're really excited to be in a business with you. Um, I want to share some expectations with you about what it means to sell houses at the Chabris Group. And I would go through that. And then I would say, what we're going to do over the next 90 days is get you up to speed so that you're operating at the standard in the last 30 days of this 90-day launch. Now, here's the deal, Dana. There are a million ways to do business in real estate. We have just figured out one way that works for us. And what we're going to figure out over this next 90 days is, does the way do your natural strengths and talents match the way we do business? And we'll know in the end of 90 days, sometimes even before that. And if we figure out beforehand that the way we doesn't match how you roll, that's awesome. We'd rather figure that out sooner
Yeah.
than later, because it's going to be painful for both of us. Does that make sense? And so that language up front makes it okay to exit the relationship in a respectful way, whenever it's appropriate, whenever they start to not do the finite number of things that you've given them.
Yeah, love that. Makes total sense. Okay, we're getting some questions in the chat. And if you guys have
Oh,
questions you want to ask, just raise your hand or type them in the chat and I'll go through them really quickly. I do have one I want to ask before I forget.
mhm.
It looks like you guys are giving them access to leads in the beginning. I know like back in the day when, you would hear Brian Gubernick teach this, or sometimes even Gary would say they would have them through their 90 days before they would give them access to their leads. Are you giving them access to the FUB leads in the beginning?
So we have a pond, and they can pretty much go dumpster diving right away, which is
Oh,
usually where the first few sales happen for newbies that we hire onto the company.
yeah.
They have to test out of the internet lead dialogue before they can get their hands on new internet leads. We don't care
Okay.
if they practice on people that other agents have already written off.
Yep. Okay.
Someone said, Heather was asking, what does it look like to test out of a script?
Yeah.
So what does it look like? It really, you schedule a time. There's a link in our 30, 60, 90 to the Calendlies for James, our executive director, and Melissa, our director of growth, and they can test out with either of them or with me if one of them isn't around on whatever that script or dialogue is, or like consultation. Like we have a buyer consultation test out, and then we have a listing certification program to test out of. The scripts is really just role playing with one of the sales leaders at the company to demonstrate that you can competently use the script or the dialogue or the objection handlers with a consumer. And it's subjective. There are some things, if you look at our script book, and I could show that to you if there's time. If you look at our script book, there are phrases and sentences that are in bold and in boldface, and we tell our agents if it's in bold, it must be told. Like there are some things that I've just learned over 21 years in this business. There's some things that you say that move people forward and how they think and how you go through the process or transition points. So if it's in bold, it's got to be told during their test out. Then we're also just listening for um, then it depends on the script what we're listening for. Does that
Yeah,
help, Heather?
that makes sense to me. Yeah, Heather, if not, you can put a follow-up question in there for sure. Okay, let's see. Antoinette said, I'm a single agent part-time with a full-time job. Is there a focus for those? Yes, thank you. Okay, that start part-time seems we are kind of overlooked. Great question. Do you take part-time or only full-time, Peter? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Uh, Antoinette, it's no judgment against people that work in the real world, as well as in real estate. We just what we do just requires the full attention of somebody. And I've had people that it's the exceptional rule of people that can do what we ask them to do and maintain a full-time job. We've had people transition over the course of 2 to 3 months, but they're usually out within 90 days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that I do feel like that's pretty common. Although there are some teams that do take
Yeah,
part-time people.
for sure. It depends on the team model, right? Like there are
Yeah,
some teams that will hire anyone and everyone and have very low standards and are mostly like a training company, and that's awesome.
yeah.
And there are some that are, SEAL Team 6, and you've got to be able to do 48 transactions a year and be all in, and that's great too. Most of them are somewhere in between those two polarities. And there are teams that will work with part-time agents.
Peter, do you guys have like a dollar amount or a closed units that you want your agents to hit before you add more agents? Or how do you determine when you want to add more agents?
That's a great question. Let me give you the right answer. The right answer is you hire another agent when you don't have enough talent to handle the leads that you're generating.
Yeah.
That's the right answer. And it's true. For our sales team, we're a little bit different because we've been around for a while and we're operating at a pretty good scale. And so we're always looking for salespeople that can meet our minimum standard production, which again, I don't think is very high, because I know how we do our leads and I can just pull levers and increase budget to make sure that the lead count matches the agent count at any point in time.
Yep, that makes sense. Because I think sometimes too, you used to hear like Jen Davis, for example, on Dan and Jen's team, I think it was they wanted their agents to get to 100,000 GCI before they brought in another agent. So they were only looking for those agents that were willing to close, 50 deals a year or whatever that ended up being at their average sales price.
Yeah, and that's totally valid. I mean, the great thing about this business is that it's yours and you can
Yeah,
have whatever kind of a business model you want. We used to, each you get to choose your poison, right?
yeah,
There is no perfect business model. There is no MREA. Like there is no one way to do this. And so we used to be SEAL Team 6. We used to be the Ohio Valley Region SEAL Team 6. And that was awesome. And it's very profitable and it's super fun. And if something happens to one of your people, you're totally hamstrung. And it
yeah.
creates a little bit of entitlement. Like, and then if you go all the way to the other extreme from SEAL Team 6, there's like People's Liberation Army of China, where you hire anybody with a pulse.
Right.
And that is messy, right? And so, and then all you do is you have just colossal mess with people who don't produce that grind up your leadership's time and your staff's time. So everybody gets to choose the poison that they want to take. And I love that for Dan and Jen, and it makes a lot of sense. If you're waiting for someone else to hit $100,000, though, my only concern would be that may not be their goal.
Yeah.
And you may be limiting your company's growth because you've empowered somebody else's goal to be bigger than your vision for growth. So I would just be a little careful with that.
Yep. Great point. Great point. Daniel wants to know what characteristics is the best sales lead possess on your team that you know will convert to their success rate in real estate? I guess I know you kind of touched on this, but
Mhm.
sometimes you get it wrong. We all do. Sometimes you get it really right. What do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah. So like what makes a great salesperson?
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing is they gotta be hungry, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means, whether it's a chip on their shoulder or they're broke or
Yeah.
they're just achievement oriented. There's got to be some motivation there. Um, the second thing is they have to have a proclivity for action,
Yeah.
right? This typically shows up using DISC terminology as driver behavior. It doesn't always, but it typically does. DI, ID, DC, sometimes CD. Um, and then I think the other things, I mean, we can make a wish list that's like 10 or 20 different characteristics long, but the other thing is somebody that can be consistent in their action and someone that's coachable.
Oh yeah, coachable's a huge one.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
would be like, if I could have my wish list of traits for a salesperson, those would be the 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yep. Love that. Great answer. Hope that helps, Daniel. Any other questions that you guys have for Peter? If you want to raise your hand, you can come on and ask, or you can type them in the chat for sure. Or maybe any struggles that you're having, while we have him and his brain that you can ask. And then Peter also, would you be willing to share a little bit of the script book? What to just, and then if we see
Sure.
questions or not.
Yeah, for sure. I can find that while you guys are coming. May I ask you a favor? Would you put the lockbox QR code up again and then let me
Yes.
find my.
Yes, yeah, everybody please go and first don't judge my desktop. And second, you can go and scan this. Let's see, is that, there we go. There we go. And yeah, I'm excited. I didn't know you were doing this, Peter. I'm really excited about this. I'm doing this right now also.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let me see if I can find it. So I don't
Uh-oh.
actually,
And if not, that's totally okay too.
let me see if I can find it, Dana. Give me 1 second here.
Okay, greater than, yeah. This is so great. I love this brand also.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great. I love that so much. And not to be assumptive, is this a great way for you to get realtor referrals also?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome because I just know that's one of the things that for the last 3 years, Gary said was one of the biggest untapped sources for agents is R2R referrals. So actually taking advantage of your realtor relationships for referrals. So this is great. I love it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I'm ready to share my screen if you want to take a look at it.
okay, perfect. Ready.
All right, so share screen. This is our script book. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
So here it is. This is primarily, actually, it is exclusively buy-side scripts.
Okay.
We have a separate dialogue for buyer for listing consultation and a separate like toolkit. The first script that they all learn is how to call their sphere for the first time and introduce real estate into the relationship without like having commission breath and having your friends screen your phone calls.
Love that. Yeah.
It's the first script they have to test out of. And then we teach them how to have those quarterly phone calls, some sample questions. You can see we've got some stuff in bold, which is what must be told. Here is the dialogue structure for an internet lead. What's next? Well, we don't use Zillow anymore, but when we did, that's what we used.
That same script for follow-up boss or no, you have different.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically the same. Here's how to take a sign call. Some just thoughts about how you're thinking about the sign call and some of the mindset around that. And then we go into a buyer consultation.
Love that.
You can see like, here's something that's in bold, so they've got to say this, right? And then you'll see like, there's some statements here that are in bold. Here's like a transition here's a transition statement that we have in bold. So that's the idea.
Yep, love that. So when they're testing out of the scripts, it's these scripts, then they're meeting with somebody that's a sales leader and passing through that. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
Love
you
it.
don't want somebody, if you're buying leads or you're generating them in some capacity, you want to make sure that this agent is going to handle them responsibly.
That's the number one complaint I hear from rainmakers in my one-on-ones is that they have that it's not a leads problem, it's a lead follow-up problem, and that they have all these leads in their sync or their FUB or whatever they're using, and that their agents don't call the leads. Yeah.
That is universal to the human condition.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get into managing salespeople is a different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely it. So awesome. This has been very, very, very helpful. Any last questions? Anybody got a question? Good value. Did you guys get some good nuggets? Yep. Awesome. Oh, Troy, one last one. How do you distribute leads? Good question.
So I actually don't know. We should get James on this call. I believe you have to, there's some conditions to stay in lead rotation. Yeah, you can text James. There's some conditions. So everybody has conditions they have to meet to stay in lead. I know this much to be true. There's a couple conditions you have to meet to stay in lead rotation. One is a certain number of contacts, certain number of appointments signed. If you're taking leads, you've got to close a house lead every 60 days. You have to have no more than 10 past due like follow-ups and no more than 100 leads in your like kit, your hopper, whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
if you check all those boxes, you stay in lead rotation, I think.
Yeah. Kendra, I know you're not the only one. So before we go, she said she just started her team last month. Overwhelmingly heavy in systems and processes. Yes, just hired a coach, but what realistic expectation should I have for this kind of build out? Great
Kendra,
question.
first of all, show yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Congratulations on making the choice. It was about 3 or 4 years I go down to mega camp or family reunion and see people like me talk and just want to set the entire building on fire and start over. So whatever you're doing, congratulations. It's gotten you to where you are and you should be proud of that.
Yeah.
I would just say, Kendra, like, this is all a process. You're going to iterate, right? And your coach will help you. And there's probably people, your peers, that can share with you documents that they have. This is a culture of R&D, right? We rip off and duplicate the stuff of the people before us, and we all share our stuff. And you should do the same. And then in the future, you'll share it with somebody else. If you're hiring your first person, you're going to be right there next to them the whole time. And so it's okay if this is almost completely organic, because the time they spend with you one-on-one is going to be so much more valuable than these systems that we have set up, right? The impact that you'll have directly spending 8 hours a day with someone is more than all the bells and whistles I showed you guys. I think ultimately you just want to make sure that you're structuring yourself and you're structuring how you lead this person. That would be the first thing I focus on. And that probably shows up as some sort of set of standards for how somebody joins and wins with you. I hope that helps.
Yep. Great answer. Awesome. Well, this has been great. I got some great reminders too. Thank you, Peter, so much for making the time to do it. And
Thanks for having me, guys. I hope it was helpful.
yeah, and Peter is teaching the full leverage series again this year in Indianapolis. Do you know when that is?
Yeah, it's April 17th and 18th. I don't think the region has announced it yet, but they will be soon.
Okay, we'll make sure that we get that out to everybody and push that. So we'll send that as soon as the region sends it. But if you guys want to save the date, and then yes, as a thank you, and to give Peter back some value that you will actually probably get more value from him, but scan the QR code and you can sign up for his lockbox subscription. And yeah, I think that's awesome. I love that you're doing that. It's so great. So great.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're awesome.
Thank you, Dana, for having me. Thanks, guys, for spending some time with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank
Nice
you
to
all
see
for
you.
being on. We'll post
Bye,
the
guys.
recording. Have a great week. See
See you
ya.
at family reunion. Bye-bye.